To suggest who role. And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hello, everybody. You get two Scott Catamases this time. I am with Larisa Stow, one of my absolute favorite human beings. You've seen her, of course, on Saturday Night Live and on The Awakening World. She's co-hosted. And for the very first time ever, we are like...
Very first time.
This is it.
We saw each other in person.
She exists. She's real. She's not a holographic image.
And it's so wonderful to have you here. Scott's in my temple. So.
I'm in her temple.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So welcome, everybody. It's really, it's such a joy. And we're going to talk about the WEVolution. We're going to talk about these beautiful agreements that she came up with. And that her Shakti Love Warriors are embodying and that we want to embody. So join us as always. Hopefully our internet is going to be really wonderful. We did have a little bump a moment ago, so bear with us and hold that the internet gods are with us. And definitely, you know, now that we're doing Zoom meetings, turn on your cameras. I see Eleanor, Joy, and Lori, and Roger. So it's really wonderful when people turn their cameras on because we like to see you.
We do.
Yeah.
It is so much more fun.
Yeah. And we love you even if you don't turn on the camera. Oh, there we go. There's Karen. And Karen, I made you a co-host. And if something were to happen, you're in charge. So congratulations. Larisa, tell us a little bit about your two friends that you've invited today.
I've invited Mirabai Devi and Bethany Grace, two beloveds, dear, dear, dear soul sisters. I've known Mirabai for over 24 years. Amazing, unbelievably amazing. And we have had the most incredible journey together. We have been through so much together. And I have seen this beautiful being grow immensely. And I've had just an incredibly wild ride with you, right? A wonderful wild ride with Mirabai. And Bethany Grace, we haven't known each other as long, but it feels like we've known each other absolutely forever, for lifetimes. Both like Mirabai and Bethany Grace, it's like we go back lifetime after lifetime, like for sure. And Bethany Grace has played violin with Shakti Tribe for how many years?
10 years this year.
It's like, which blows my mind. I know, I'm like, wow, like it's amazing. And it's been such a blessing to play together and to go to deep places together. And these two women are inspirations. Not only do I feel like outrageously close to them both, but they embody the six agreements in such a profound way. Like I know them so up close and personal, you know, at the deepest personal level, and they know me at the deepest level. It's like many people in the world know us, you know, as one, you know, energy they see when we're feeling really good and feeling at our highest. And then there's beloveds in your life that see you, you know, when you're on your deathbed, so to speak, you know, and we have been there for each other in the most profound ways. So that's how I know from the deep of the deep that these two beings are like transmission of so many of these agreements. And that's why I thought it would be wonderful to have them here today. And I will go into explaining as, you know, a little bit more about each one, give a little bit more of an introduction.
Okay, good. And, you know, I got so excited about being in Larisa's temple that I forgot to welcome all of our friends watching on Unify. And we love our friends on Unify. And let us know where you are geographically, because it's fun. People from all over the world watch this show. I also want to thank John and Summer Raymer, who run the Sign Network, and they put us out over as many as 100 Facebook groups and pages. So we're all over Facebook right now. And of course, a special welcome to our friends in the Zoom room. And a lot of our regulars know what to do, tell us where they're from. So we've got Mary from Santa Rosa, Karen, who's coming from North Carolina. We've got Eleanor Joy, one of our favorites from Vancouver Island, Lynn and Leaf. Beth, these are all people that we love. And if you haven't put in where you are geographically yet, whether you're watching on Facebook, watching on YouTube, or in our Zoom room, please do so. And for those who are watching on Facebook, come on into the Zoom room with us. It's really easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com, and register. And once you register, you're going to get the links to all of our rooms, Zoom rooms, for all 3 shows. We do 3 shows every weekend: Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. And Larisa's going to be a very special guest Sunday morning. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And tomorrow night is a big collaboration with Unify and Global Coherence Pulse. So a lot happening on the awakening world. And the reason I really wanted us to do something just on the 6 agreements is that what's the show called? It's the Awakening World. What's going on? We are all practicing how to support each other to really raise our consciousness, because clearly, obviously, humanity needs to shift in order to create a sustainable world. And one of the things that I love about Larisa is she is so dedicated to doing the work. And she leads by example. And she's quite a leader. Her Shakti Love Warriors is an amazing community. So I love integrating communities. That's why we do a lot of collaborations. So welcome, Shakti Love Warriors, to Global Peace Tribe. Also, Mirabai, I do know your work because so many people have shared. And I have people say, you got to have Mirabai on the show, you know. And we did have you, of course, once on Saturday Night Live. And so it's wonderful to have you. And thank you for the wonderful work you are doing in the world. Thank you so much. And Bethany, I look forward to getting to know you. And oh my God, she did a little sound check of playing violin. We're in for a treat tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host and my partner, Larisa, just to tell us a little bit more about the WEVolution and the Shakti Love Warriors and the 6 agreements.
Okay, yeah. Well, the WEVolution started out as a divine download from Divine Mother. And speaking it always is good to start with yourself. Person for my life at the time. And I had this visitation from Divine Mother. And in that visitation, I was asking, because she said, you need to quickly shift from the frequency of doing this all private connection
Mhm.
where I had to unplug from just me going straight to source and doing it all by myself and plug into the we,
Wow.
which is really the divine feminine.
Mhm.
And given that I didn't know what that was, I said, well, how do I evolve? And she said, there is no more evolving, no more
Evolving.
evolving,
It's
there's
wevolving.
wevolving. And she said, there's no more evolution, there's
Wevolution.
wevolution.
Wow.
And that's when it first, I first started working with that and opening up to what does that really mean? And specifically what I was shown is that it's about us. Like we're the ones we've been waiting for.
Mhm.
We have in the past, I always like to say in the past, even if it was a second ago,
Mhm.
we have in the past focused more on working really hard and thinking that we have to save the world,
Right. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
feeling like we're the ones that have to save the world. And the WEVolution is about realizing that together as a collaborative effort that we can walk forward in bringing forth the world that we want together, but from a place not of this like really hard work, but from a place of play.
Wow. I like that.
So it's a very different vibration. It's the vibration of thinking that I have to evolve myself
Mhm.
is one, and then me just connecting to source, just myself connecting to source without opening it up to the full of receiving source everywhere, here and there.
Mm.
Um,
Uh-oh. So I'm getting the note that we're freezing up a little bit. And how bad are you guys, like, if you can put in the chat box what percentage you're able to hear, because we are hoping to have the internet gods be kind. So if you, thank you. Oh, good now, 75%, 90%. So bear with us. If you really miss a lot, let us know, and we're turning off our devices, our other devices. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, the joyfulness though.
yes.
And you know what I'm loving about what you're saying is it feels like it's going from survival to thriving
Yes.
in our consciousness.
Yes.
So it's not that surviving reptile brain running the show,
Yes.
but it's the thriving frontal lobe of trusting the oneness.
Yes. And literally dropping from the mind into the heart, into the body as well. So we have a tendency in the past to move from and have the mind lead with our consciousness. And this is about dropping fully into the body and into the connection with one another, knowing that source is not only something that we connect like this to, but that source is all around us with each other. And it is a spirit of play and collaboration. And it's really about linking arms and hearts and hands and walking forward in a unified vision of compassion. So heart-centered leadership, heart-centered living in life. So that is I would say the of what I was saying. It's the meat of what I was saying.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
And as always, we want to see your thoughts, your comments, and if, what is this? How does it relate to you? How do you relate to it? Any thoughts you have, comments, questions, and I'll really do my best to, of course, check them and share as many of them as we can to make it an interactive dialogue.
Yes. And I would say that the 6 agreements came out of that because how do we actually put this into practice in life? And talking about it and saying, yeah, we want to lead from heart-centered awareness and we want to walk together with this vision, and this collaborating in this vision is one thing, but how do we do that? Yeah. And so putting them into practice is really important. So that's where the 6 agreements came out of that. And it it took months, honestly, and some help, from my friends. Laurie Goldstein is tuning in right now, and Lar really gave some beautiful, enlightening pieces, illuminating pieces to the 6 agreements, and Benj is always a great editor. So Benj did some wonderful editing. And so it's a wee space, as always. And obviously all these agreements were born out of the wisdoms that have been around forever. Right. But it's crystallizing that and focusing on these specific ones that make a really, really big difference, and how we are able to raise the vibration of the planet, raise the vibration specifically of ourselves first, so that we can do this and usher in this new world that we've been talking about for a long time, that is much more heart-centered
Beautiful.
than mind-centered.
Now, of course, we're going to go through the 6 agreements. And for those of you in our Zoom room, I've actually put the document into the chat box. So you can go into your computer and just open it up and look at it and keep it and save it. We'll, of course, open it up and screen share it. But before we screen share it and go through the 6, do you want to check in with how Mirabai and Bethany relate to the 6 agreements?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would love to. I thought it would be easiest to start off with Mir, and so that I can introduce Mirabai
Okay.
in a little bit more depth about who she is. So in the world, when I met Mirabai, she was already deep in doing her healing work. Like I said, about 24 years ago, we met in Tres Piedras, New Mexico, at a friend, Carol Allen's wedding. And when I met Mir, she was already, fully embodying her healing work in the world after she had completely divine opening experience, and was given that transmission of healing. And as long as I've known her, she has just been building and building her mission in the world of spreading and sharing that understanding of how to open to the light, how to connect to the light within, and helping people heal. And she is, you may not know it from the get-go, but this woman is very fun. And that
I was curious what word was going to come out. No, you have no idea. You would not know from the get-go, but this woman is very, and there's about 40 words that flew through my mind. Which word is it going to be? There it is. There's the fun.
See?
Yeah, there it is.
Because Mirabai, she could sit there and, she's got this more of a formal energy.
Yeah, the countenance of wisdom and yeah.
And I think in our relationship over the years, that's even from the get-go, from the moment that we met, I think that was the piece, is pulling out that part, because she is so fun and so playful and giving herself permission. And that's a lot of our relationship.
Mirabai, I'd love to hear about that, because of course you are a beloved spiritual teacher. So has that been part of your process to learn to make it more fun, or have you always had that kind of spirit of play?
Well, I'm in love with nature and animals and, sweet beings like that. So I've always had the spirit of play that comes out. But I have had to learn to play a lot more. And definitely Larisa has been a big influence on me in that regard, because I do work a lot and help a lot of people. And I'm very focused, like a laser beam, super laser focused on my light mission. So this is something that I'm learning and growing through. And I just had the most amazing opportunity to go up the West Coast of California and into Oregon. So I had some beauty and some fun, and got to connect with some incredible beings, including deer and seal and wild turkey and all kinds of animals up the coast. And then also in Kauai with my chickens and pigs and cats. And I just really come alive around all that. And so just having more time to play and be in nature is really important. I'm learning that.
Well, since you love animals and sweetness, this is Jasmine Bear.
Oh,
And I just woke her up. She was right behind us sleeping. So she's got sleepy face going on.
she's adorable.
But since you love innocence and animals, here she is. And this has been my little traveling partner. We're traveling all over together right now. So anyway, and most of
love her.
our friends on Zoom, they've gotten to know Jasmine Bear. I think some people watch the show more for her than for me. But and by the way, somebody did ask about Trish, who's our regular co-host on Friday nights. And Trish will be back in August. She's asked to take the month of July off so she could travel. So Trish will be back in August. So there's the answer there.
And I wanted to have Mirabai on today because Mirabai really, like I said, she is a strong transmission,
Mhm.
you know, of a lot of these agreements, and specifically that plugging into source daily. That is the one that I have known. I remember way back in the day, 24 years ago, when I would watch Mirabai every day. Like I would walk into the room and she'd just be like, just like fully in the light. Like just that was very consistent. It's been very consistent throughout her life.
And you're right there on the altar.
Yes, she
You're
is.
right there.
Yes, she is.
So, well, how wonderful to have your teacher. And isn't it wonderful when we become friends with a teacher that has been so beloved for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mirabai we met as friends.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah, like as sisters. So, but I value her work in the world.
Yeah.
And therefore
I had one like that, but in opposite. It was Ram Dass. And I was like a huge fan of Ram Dass and read the books, and then I became his friend. And that was it's a beautiful experience when you can be friends with a great spiritual teacher like you, Mirabai.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, she's
Thank you.
And I would love for you to share, because you've been looking over the 6 agreements, and I would love for you to share how your spiritual practice, how that has really informed your ability to embrace these concepts and work with these. I call them the agreements, but it's like really work with these practices and how that's influenced it.
Yeah. So, La, as you know, I've been meditating since I was 7 years old, and pretty much born awake from 3 years old was connecting with the light and with prayerfulness, meditation, divine masters in spirit and the light. I'm just looking at your agreement here. And so later on, when I had my awakening, my bigger awakening in India in 1992, and merged into that state of God consciousness, my thing was like, how do I teach this? How do I share this? How do I help people to awaken to their God self within, to their inner love, to their inner divine? You know, it's everywhere, it's in everything. But how do you teach this? And so I really did a deep dive into sharing a lot of practices with people all over the world. And I think I started with spontaneous writing and channeling information and teaching, and then it grew into really studying and teaching a lot of mantra, and mainly Sanskrit mantra, some Buddhist mantra, and of course even Western mantra, and then moved deeper into different breathwork traditions and sharing those teachings, you know, the whole gamut of from, you know, starting in rebirthing back in my early 20s all the way through to different forms of pranayama. And then I went deep into the science of prayer. And of course, prayer is so powerful for me, because prayer is talking to God, and meditation is listening to the answers within, inner listening. And so I developed like a very deep teaching based on my studies in my early 20s, in the early 1990s, with the Findhorn Foundation in Scotland, which is one of the biggest spiritual communities on the planet, where I was studying with Eileen Caddy. I was very blessed to be with her in form, and started teaching these workshops from Eileen's tuition all over the world on listening to the still small voice of God within, listening to our inner guidance, dialoguing with our inner voice, and being in a constant state of communion, right? And when you're in a constant state of communion back and forth, when you're praying, talking to the God self within, and meditating, receiving the answers, then that living prayer, that living meditation becomes a moment by moment thing. It's not just like, oh, I sit down to pray once a day or twice a day. It's like you're constantly in that inner communion with the divine or the God self within. So you're always asking and receiving guidance about every little thing. And you're on that path of being led, guided, and directed so that you're always in communion, and then you're plugged into the source. And what greater thing is there to be plugged in to the source? And of course, it took a lot of time in stillness to develop samadhi and higher states of consciousness and ecstatic states and blissful states of union. But then the goal was to teach others how to experience that, whether it was transmitting it to others or whether it was putting people into that state or giving them those practices, as many practices, so that they could go into the state. But obviously, you know, we practice and we practice, but it's transmission that takes us there. It's that inner union, it's that inner connection, or the transmission from someone that's already in the state. And then we go into those states of union or those states of communion. And so we have to really make that the most important thing in our lives. And so while everybody else was going out and having families and kids and jobs and careers and homes, I was just focused on God realization my whole life. It was my only passion and devotion, and it came above all else. And since I'm like a super laser beam, that I wanted to attain that before anything else, because it's like Paramahansa Yogananda says, you know, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and then all else shall be added into you. Also the words of Yeshua. So connecting into source was the number one priority in my life. And if you make your spiritual practice your life, and you make your connection with source or God or the light the number one priority in your life, then everything else that comes after that is just so beautiful, because you've developed that muscle and you're kind of not in the driver's seat anymore. The light is driving your life. The divine is driving your life. And there are, you know, you reap the rewards of the practices. So I would say to everyone, you know, to live the spiritual practices and let your life become your spiritual practice. Let every single moment of your life be your spiritual practice. That's all I want to share about that.
No, it's powerful. Yeah, Paramahansa Yogananda is my master teacher. And I remember the quote where he says, everything else can wait. The search for God cannot wait, which is another way of saying what you just said. And so thank you for that. Question, how do you, for yourself, or when you're supporting people, when people are really having big external world hard stuff, what's the tool that you would recommend for maintaining that connection to God's source first, even when there's the presence of very real pain?
Yeah, I feel that you're talking about pain body or shadow work. And so I would say that, you know, we can't run away from our pain or our fears. We have to face it head on. And when we face it fully and we embrace it and we allow ourselves to do the work by really diving into it with the help of a guided counselor or a guided spiritual teacher or a trusty, you know, best friend or a mentor, then we have the ability to remember that we can be dual focused. We can have our focus be clearing the blocks, the issues, the pain body, the shadow, whatever's coming up, and mining the depth of those issues, because that's real. That's what's really going on for us. That's what we need to be facing and clearing and owning, while honoring that inside of us is this witnessing consciousness, is this observant nature, is this third identity, right? The self that is always observing, that is always neutral, that is always loving us no matter what we're going through. So we can laugh at ourselves, or we can cry with ourselves, or we can be our own best friend. We can love ourselves through the process because we're not alone in it.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you for, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh,
but-
so yeah, that's good. And I would also ask, you to feel into, for a lot of people, they start to connect into their divinity, but then there's this disconnect for a lot of people. Like there's a feeling of I've got my divinity, feels so good when I go into the light, but now I'm experiencing this emotional pain, and it almost becomes even more painful for people
Mhm.
because it's like, okay, I know what it feels like to be in bliss, I know what it feels like to be in the light, but suddenly they're up against their human self. So what's your experience like with yourself and with the people that you work with in navigating that? Because this is the next piece I see, because we have spent a lot of time connecting to source, like, going to the Godhead and doing our meditation, right? But how do we embody that in life? You talked about the shadow work. How do we embody that in our day to day? And what do you see with that?
Yeah. So what I see is that our culture has a huge separation between God is somewhere outside of ourselves, and that we are these like unworthy, undeserving, unlovable creatures that our religions have taught us have to kind of like, crawl on our knees to get God's approval or love, and that we're easily punished for our wrongdoings. And the reality is that there's no separation. In fact, separation is an illusion, and that our consciousness is everything, right? It's the human, it's the pain, it's the suffering, it's the death, it's the morbidity, it's the agony, and it's humanity. And then it's also the ecstasy and the bliss and the beauty and the abundance and the connection, right? It's all of it. So we have to stop separating and creating this dualism. And so what I teach is a non-dual awareness, a non-dual lifestyle and practice, which is based in the fact that we don't have to disassociate or detach to the point where we're not paying attention to our emotional body, because if we ignore our emotional body, then it's going to, those biochemicals are going to rise up and create cancers and different kinds of lumps and tumors and things to get our attention, or erupt like volcanoes. So we have to work to clean our emotional body and our mental body. So I have so many different techniques that I use and that I share with my students on how to clean the emotional body and how to clean the mental body, whether it's radical self-acceptance, self-awareness, mindfulness, practicing going in and doing extractions, working with the pain body and really feeling the emotions, and then having some form of relief when it becomes overwhelming, whether it's breath work or whether it's grounding or embodiment. Usually the main thing is to remember that body and soul are just the ice in the water. So embodying fully and embracing our courage, our strength, our fearlessness, our invincibility when we feel weak and we feel vulnerable and we feel helpless and we feel unworthy or undeserving. And to access that whole gamut of all these different aspects of ourself, instead of being in this blinkers on tunnel vision that we're just this pain, or we're just this cancer, or we're just this migraine headache, or we're just this failure in our lives. So shifting out of this separation consciousness into non-dualism as a practice that has like a whole wheel of spokes of different techniques and practices that free people or liberate people from being in a constant perpetual state of suffering. Because suffering is real in this realm, it's real in this world, it's real in this body. There's no escaping being in suffering in this form. And so we have to work with it. And every time we try to deny it or ignore it or pretend it's not there, we're going to only make it worse.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel too that in the past, we have seen our spiritual teachers, like in the world, like Yogananda, even like yourself. One of the things I'd like to bring up to people is that there is this illusion a lot of times with spiritual teachers that they're not human, and that they have gone beyond, and they've got, you know, they did all the work, and so now they're just constantly connected to the light all the time. And that really is a disservice to humanity, because then humanity starts to feel, we start to think, well, gosh, you know, I keep working on this, I keep meditating, I keep doing these things, and I'm still experiencing pain and suffering sometimes. I may not, as my friend India over here likes to say, it's like I may not live there, I may be visiting it, you know, and not living there, but still, you know, feeling like there's something wrong.
Right, because I'm having such a human experience, and I could never be where Mirabai is at. I could never be where Yogananda was.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so we create this separation, or then comes the disillusionment when we do discover that our spiritual teacher is human. And you know,
right?
did whatever human thing.
They get knocked off the pedestal, and then you get demonized because you're not this perfect being that people thought that you should be. So this is another piece I wanted to speak to today. And Mirabai, like even specifically with you, like this piece of cultivating courageous vulnerability in life. As I've known you, you know, and we even talked about this today, this is something I wanted to bring up. It's like, I know in the past that people have had this idea even of Mirabai and myself too. And boy, do I try to, you know, punch holes in all that, being the goofy person that I am. I try to punch holes with my goofiness and all that. And I know that Mirabai has experienced this too, where people have pedestalized her and thought that she is just this, you know, this divine being that doesn't have these feelings and emotions like the rest of us. And that's not healthy for them, and it's not healthy for her. And the truth is that she is this wonderful spiritual teacher, but she's also very, very human. And that piece of courageous vulnerability is for teachers now to realize they don't have to hold that anymore. We don't have to hold that image because people are projecting that image. And I know for Mirror, we've talked about this, that people have had in the past this expectation of you. And because of feeling that expectation, you have felt like you've had to really hold it like this because that was the expectation. But now we are understanding that it just does not work.
No.
And so today, one of the things that I'm excited about you sharing as well is, you know, this piece. And I'm just going to read it because I think people are asking us to go over.
Okay, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen. Just before you do that, I want to acknowledge a couple comments.
Okay.
First of all, a lot of people are saying appreciations. We're getting a lot of appreciations from our friends in Unify and on Facebook. And Eleanor Joy writes, just as an example of the appreciations, thank you for these beautiful reminders, very clear and spot on. I'm doing the deep dive now, and it's a new experience for me and very worthwhile. So thank you, Eleanor Joy, for that example. And there was a question that came in on Facebook for you, Mirabai. You had mentioned different practices, and you used the word extractions. And so Jojo on Facebook is asking, what do you mean by extraction? So if we could just answer that question,
okay.
and then we'll read.
Okay.
Sure, yeah. So I, like many of the audience here today, I'm sure, am an empath and a sensitive. And as an empath and a sensitive, you tend to pick up other people's feelings when they don't even know they're feeling it, or you tend to pick up other people's negative energies, whether it's intense anger or intense fear, or whether it's actually things that have blobbed on like hitchhikers. And those things get stuck into the auric field, or they can even bury their way into the physical body. And then we get headaches and back pain and neck pain, or we get dizzy, or we get nauseated, or we get sick, and we don't even know what's going on. And then an intuitive or a sensitive can work with you and do an illumination, which is, if you think about it, it's kind of like a shamanic term, right? To illuminate, fill you with light, and then go in and find where those negative energies have lodged into your body or into your subtle bodies or into your etheric field that are causing you the pain or the discomfort, wherever it is in your body, and then extract it for you. So that first of all, the negative energy that's either attached itself to from other people, if you're sensitive to other people's energies, they call them OPEs, just like we deal with EMFs. These are OPEs. And so a sensitive or intuitive will come in and extract that for you. I do a lot of that in my work and practice with people because I'm a seer. And sometimes we just can't see it for ourselves. It's like we can feel it, but we can't see it. So we need someone who can say, I see exactly where it is. We're pulling that out now, clearing that. And now you're back to your radiant health or feeling better or clear. And it makes such a difference. It's a lifesaver. I have people from all over the world who see me for that. And they are just so incredibly grateful because they're back to functioning. They're back to normal. They're back to their health. And without that extraction, it's really hard to just clear it just with breath work or visualization, or, there's so many, like the golden bubble or the golden egg protection or the violet flame or the fire or the white light or all of that stuff. It doesn't really remove it. You've actually got to extract it.
Thank you.
It's a function.
Yeah, what a beautiful service you're providing. And several people on Facebook right now are saying, yes, extractions. How do I get one from you?
Great.
So,
Pull me out.
Okay, we will go to Mirabai's website and learn all about how to connect with her and receive her services. We'll do that in a little bit. So stick around.
Thanks, Scott. It's
Yeah,
a real
thank
thing.
you.
I mean, so many people suffer unnecessary. I can't even tell you how many people. It happens to most people, and they don't know where to go, what to do, or how to deal with it. It's
Wow.
very painful.
Well, thank you for that service.
Mhm.
Okay, now you can read the, and thank you everybody for your comments. We'll continue to read some of the comments throughout the evening. I'm going to share screen while you read it too.
Okay, fantastic. And I'm thinking we might as well read the first one.
Okay, I'll make it bigger too.
Okay.
So for our friends in the Zoom room, let us know, are you able to give us, Eleanor Joy, Mirabai, give us a thumbs up. Is this, you can read it okay? Great, okay.
Okay, fantastic. So number one is plug daily into source. Meditation, mindfulness, breath work, yoga, mantra, prayer, and stillness are examples. Just as Olympic athletes rigorously train, so too must we strengthen our spiritual muscles, deepening our connection to source and expanding our energetic capacities. Daily spiritual practice is the practice of love. So we just spoke on that. Mirabai spoke on that quite a bit and the importance of that. And I personally have committed my life to a daily spiritual practice, and I've like missed one day in 800 and something days on accident. But it's something every single morning that I'm very committed to, and it makes all the difference, absolutely all the difference, and has inspired the WEVolution, and these agreements. It's created the foundation for everything.
So I want to just invite our Zoom roomers and our Facebookers, put in the chat box, what are your spiritual practices? Don't be intimidated. You don't have to have done it 1,100 days in a row. But if you have daily spiritual practices, it's always helpful to read what other people's practices are. So pop it in the chat box and I'll share. If you want to be anonymous, just say anonymous. And I'll share what some of those practices are as examples.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and getting on that horse, getting back on that horse if you fall off is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Because, and once I started, didn't want to stop. I can't imagine my life without it now.
Are we going to number 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 2 is cultivating courageous vulnerability, allowing people to see your struggle, to see your humanity. Take off your social mask. Dare to be transparent. You allow others to contribute more to you when you do, creating deeper connection in your relationships. And this is the piece, like with mirror, that I wanted to speak to, because as an example, you give, in life so much. And this piece of allowing yourself to be fully seen and all of your humanity, which is beautiful and fun and playful, gives you an opportunity to be you be received like fully as well, and you feel yourself being fully received in life. And so I would
Yeah.
love for you to speak to like what you're learning, how you're learning and growing with this, what is coming up for you, like around, opening more to play and connection with others in your life.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'd like to go back a little bit to the beginning and say that the concept that spiritual teachers or avatars are not human is based on a misinformation or a misunderstanding that has gone through the ages, really. And it's because of this gap that people feel between themselves and God. And I think a lot of that has come from, like, you have to go through the priest to get to God. You can't go to God direct. So I think that it's created this like pedestal where, God's up here, the priest is here, and the human is here. And it comes from this sense of unworthiness or worthlessness, which is the ego nature, right? One of the ego's belief systems is I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I can't receive. And those are the 5 fingers that teaching I often give of our separation from our God self or our divine self. And so from that ego perception, religions have perfectly taken that, and certain religions have used that to divide people from their spiritual self or their spiritual power. And so now that we're going through this awakening and ascension, where we're waking up as a human collective, we're not really into this whole separation of like, here's God, here's the priest, here's the spirit, the human being, or here's God, here's the spiritual teacher, here's the human being. It's rather understanding that, first of all, Jesus, Yeshua got angry. We know that from stories in the Bible. We know that our great divine mothers, whether it's Alma gets angry or scolds her children, or we know that Gandhi had to deal with his sexuality. I mean, he talks about it in his writings, and his relationship with his wife and his sexuality and his anger. I mean, the whole concept is a misunderstanding. It's a misbelief. And so I've been loving to burst that box or that bubble for people all over the world as I've traveled around the world to I've always and will write a book on it, because it's very painful for a lot of spiritual teachers that get put in a box of expectations that this is what it's supposed to look like. And it just doesn't. In fact, the more awakened you are, the more compassionate you are, the more you feel humanity's pain, or animals' pain, or the planet's pain, or Mother Earth's pain, and the more you want to serve and help and give. It's not less. You don't become like a robot that's feelingless with no emotional body. That's more someone who's shut off their emotions or shut off their feelings. So it's expectations to be a certain way in a box that make a spiritual teacher, or I'll say in this case for me, not want to share as much. Because expectations, it doesn't matter who's putting expectations on who, they're always painful for anybody to have to live up to. And we can't live up to people's expectations, especially when they're false expectations. They're not even based in reality, or the perception that being connected to the divine light 24/7, being connected to the divine and having that third self awake, which is the neutral self, the witnessing self, the observer self, the God self that is always kind of, there, versus your emotional body or your mental body, or what's happening on these other subtle body levels. They are all riding along in the vehicle, in the bus together. They're all in the bus together. And so we're shifting, we may be connected to the light 24/7 because we've awakened to the light, the light is always with us, but that doesn't mean we're not fully human. That doesn't mean that we're not fully experiencing our emotions, our compassion, the pain for other people's suffering, our own experience of suffering in the form, whatever it looks like. And there's so many stories, right? Including my own around experiences of growing up in South Africa in the apartheid era and seeing the terrible atrocities that went on, and just heartbreaking to grow up in all of that. And I really think that it was a blessing that I did, because I really learned what true suffering is, and came to global service mission because I wanted to help so much, to help people not to suffer or be in pain. And so there comes a certain point, where you just mature as a person, and then you don't care what anybody thinks about you anymore, because you're secure in yourself, and you know who you are, and you know your relationship with God within. And you also come to realize that everyone and everything is you, and that we are all one. So you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to be someone. You don't have to care about the expectations. And so it becomes easier and easier just to dissolve those illusions and be yourself. And once you become yourself, then you're so happy because you feel natural and you feel your own natural state. So you don't have to be anything for anyone, really. And then there comes a point where you can just use it as an education tool or a teaching tool, right? To help people to snap out of that illusion. Because it's just an old story that's been going on for way too long. So that's why we need to share this knowledge. And you're freezing, so maybe say that again. Oh, I'm sorry, you're freezing. Could you say that again? Thank you.
I said I have a provocative question for you. What is something that you share with people today? Something that that you're going through that is opening you up and teaching you something new that you have not maybe in the past had such a grasp of in the past. So is there a piece that you could share with us on a personal level that models this courageous vulnerability? Like, what are you going through, Mirabai, that is strengthening you and helping you be more of who you are as the human, having this divine being, having a human experience?
I mean, I have to say that the first thing that comes to mind is that for the 30 years that I've been doing this mission around the world, I was in a urgency to save humanity. And I think that I carried this frequency of we've got to wake everybody up, otherwise we're not going to make it. And now I think I'm coming into more of an acceptance that within myself, that first of all, there are so many people just checking that. Are we freezing here? How's the internet connection? Just checking if that's me or you freezing up here.
I just asked our group, so let us know if friends in our Zoom room, let us know how Mirabai's internet connection is and how it is for Larisa. It's good. I was going in and out. I'll read a couple of quick practices because a lot of people are sharing their beautiful practices.
Thank you.
And I want to get to Bethany right
and we're going to get to
this.
Bethany.
We got to get to our Bethany Grace.
Well, Karen Eisenberg wrote, I live in gratitude for everything and everyone. I go out on nature walks and connect to source in all that I see. I send healing to our beautiful planet, all of humanity, family, and friends. I listen deeply in meditation and to everyone in my life. Beautiful. Eleanor Joy writes, being mindful of my food, my environment, my body, etc. Writes, I use acupuncture to heal and prayer, review before meditation. Also, watering my plants is a meditation in itself. Sitting on my porch, my happy place, integration and contemplation. One person writes, the Global Peace Tribe nurtures and nourishes us. That's good. And then Dorina, who's coming to us from Ecuador, writes, my daily favorites include sunset practice of pet and purr therapy, play and laughter therapy, daily experience instead of on occasional, as we need to be less serious, smile and laugh. That's her great gift. She knows how to be wacky. Nature-based spiritual practice, connecting with the consciousness of the earth, elements, plants, and animal life. And her practice has increased deeply, learning about the Kogi people of Colombia. So thank you for all of those beautiful practices, and more people are saying thank you, Mirabai, for these beautiful words. So how's Mirabai now?
Is my sound good? Am I back on? Okay, awesome. Scott, you were really going in and out during reading those comments. They were fading in and out, but I think because the comments on the chat, a lot of us were reading the comments along with you. So that was helpful.
Okay, great.
Yeah, just to finish that thought so we can go over to Bethany, I was just saying basically that I think I was living in an urgency, that if we don't wake everybody up, humanity's not going to make it. And I think we're there, we're in that time now where we're in it, we're in the soup. It's like really, thing has hit the fan. It's all happening. The total chaos is here. And now it's really about, it's really about us doing the work ourselves. And I think teachers like myself and others that have put in a good 30 years of working with people all over the world, day in and day out, 24/7, are now really able to step back and is my sound okay? Can you all hear me?
Mirabai,
So
no,
sorry.
your internet's gone into the red. So
Okay.
let's,
Thank you.
oh my, we love you so much. And hopefully
Okay.
I can track, how it's going. So let's
Okay.
try bringing Bethany on, and then hopefully what you may want to even do is leave the Zoom room and come right back in. That sometimes
Okay.
makes a difference.
Will do. Perfect. Thank you.
And
Thank you, sweetheart.
love you so much.
Love
You're
you
awesome. Oh
Love
my
you too.
God,
So
people
much,
loving
honey.
you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Do you want to? Yeah.
Bethany Grace. Oh my goodness gracious. This woman here. I mean, I just want to start off by saying you all will get to hear her play violin. If you haven't heard her play with Shakti Tribe, she has played at Taj Mahal with Yanni. She's played table centers. You played with Aerosmith. I'm trying to, there's just this, she's played with a lot of people.
Wow.
And she has been playing since she was a child, a small wee one. And what's, I think, separates Bethany from a lot of different violinists and musicians is the spirit that she brings. She is just like this total, like, lit up fairy, really shines through. She's infectious, like this is completely infectious with Bethany. And what you would know, like, from seeing this woman is like the most incredibly challenging, like, that nobody would want to experience in their life. What this woman has gone through and who she is just profound. It's profound. Because she's really, she is gone, like, through things. Honestly, like, as a parent, she'll share. I'm going to let her share more about that, but she lost her daughter. She lost her kiddo to an ex, to her ex, and because of this, like, knowing Bethany's past and everything that she has gone through in her life, it gives bringing her on here in these agreements, like so much weight,
Mhm.
that I'm like, if anyone is a transmission of leading with compassionate curiosity
Mm.
and practicing radical self-acceptance and respecting each other, this woman really, really does that at such an incredible depth. And I would like to just read before you share about your story, Bethany, and about how you have really implemented in your life, leading with compassionate curiosity. I feel like she's going to be an inspiration to all of us to know what's really possible, because people will say so many times, well, I can be compassionate, until a certain point.
Right. Yeah. Marshall Rosenberg used to say that it was empathy from hell, because you're giving just a little bit of empathy and then expecting the person to change. But the alternative to that is give empathy, seek to understand, give more empathy, seek to understand, and count to 1 billion. Right.
Right.
So, well, you want to read the third one then?
Let me read the third one,
Okay.
because she absolutely is going to give us
And
a
she
deeper
embodies
teaching.
this, yeah.
Yes. Lead with compassionate curiosity. When you find yourself judging, defending your position, becoming critical, or self-righteous, step back and observe. Put in the effort to see through another's eyes. Get curious about how they came to be the person/personality they are today. What shaped their consciousness and perceptions? What informed their beliefs? What are the needs and values driving their unconscious behaviors and their conscious choices? The more you understand how a person came to be who they are, the more compassion and empathy you can hold for them. Genuinely care about their well-being.
Beautiful. Well, I love that agreement. Well, Bethany, that was quite an introduction.
Well, I am so blessed that you asked me to be here and speak. I'm going to jump right into agreement number 2, which is CCV, cultivate courageous vulnerability. Being asked to speak regarding these agreements, I found myself wondering, what should I say? How do I say it? What should I do? And I said to myself, well, you can play the violin and not be afraid. So what's the difference? And I thought, well, not really anything. To play the violinist and to play the violin in the highest way, to contribute and channel that sacred and intimate experience that we do, I need to feel comfortable. And one thing that I do is I have music to read. And even after 10 years with Larisa and the tribe, I'm still reading music, my notes. And I've always tried to hide the fact that I use music, even though it's the music stands right in front of my body when I play. And it's kind of embarrassing because nobody else in the group uses music, but it does make me relax and go deeper. So today I will face my fears and insecurity regarding what you guys may think of me and read from my notes. So what else do I do when I'm trying to channel inspiration and love without shaking in my boots to accomplish that goal? These techniques, I have written a book, which is coming out soon. It's called The Violin Whisperer, a metaphysical approach to playing the violin. I start out with agreement number 1, do my meditation techniques, my sadhana. I study and practice what I'm going to perform. I pray deeply and ask the divine to play through me. And when I walk on stage, I call into being agreement number 3. What are the needs and values driving their unconscious and conscious behaviors? And how can I tap into that love with love and to make that performance a we experience? And then of course, number 6, the agreement comes naturally into play. So last night, my fear of speaking was making me feel kind of weak and sick. I thought, well, maybe if I'm too sick to speak, that will be my way out. But with Larisa, there is no way out, only in. So this morning I did my meditations and I practiced by researching and writing and reading and contemplating and opening my heart, because I want to live not only these agreements, but my mission statement, which is to shine divine mother's love to all. Which now leads me about how hard it was to shine during these tragedies, abuse, and disabilities that I experienced. I guess maybe opportunities. Well, my guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, says that 75% of your salvation comes from the darkness of depression is the light of God and gurus. That they're there for 75%. They give that much, and then they told me, says that you need to contribute your own contribution of 25%, which has to be 100%, 25%. So I figured the odds were with me, and I have practiced deeply and with intention and attention and devotion, these agreements. At the time, I did not have these agreements, but they are throughout they are in the Bhagavad Gita. I use the 26 qualities that make man divine from chapter 16. And so now I look at my tragedies and the abuse and the disabilities and see them for what they are. Basically, the movie and book titled The Life of the Violin Whisperer, a story in 4 chapters written by Beth Ann Farkas, which was my maiden name, Beth Folsom, my married name, and then Bethany Grace, when I came into the Shakti tribe with love and help from my Lama. So I will tell you about the biggest tragedy that came into my life, and an incident from the abuse that I withstood that led to my disability. So my daughter was murdered, and who would have thought she was the incarnation of compassion. Her name Dara means compassionate. And Dara was truly a walking, talking compassion person. And she was 18 when her life was taken. She had just sang back up for Josh Groban on the Tonight Show and on the Ellen DeGeneres show. Her career was taken off, and it came to a place to where I had to step in and save her from this guy that was, completely controlling her. He wouldn't let her talk without being on the phone, and without, he just wouldn't let her do anything. And he was always there. And so I called her and I said, I got to come and get you. This is just not healthy and not right. And I found out that he had told my other daughter that if he can't have her, nobody else can. And then I've also found out from his mother that he had told her that he was going to die that day. So he took them both out the next day before I could come and get her. And at the time, it was totally shocking. And I realized immediately because I have such an amazing practice that I've done every day, and amazing gurus, immediately, I would say immediately, without any hesitation, I had to forgive him for killing her. My other children did not have that same belief system, and it pretty much wrecked their lives. But then, it was very important to me to understand, like you were talking about the, number 3 that you just read, that I had to understand what was in his life, where he was coming from. And I did hear from his mother that they had fled from an abusive father. And that father, was from Persia. They left Persia to escape the abuse that the father inflicted. But he took it up, apparently. It just is passed on. And so I had to understand that, and I do understand that, and I felt his pain, and I knew that, that's why he killed my daughter. And then a week and a half after she died, I had a husband at the time that was very bipolar. And about a week and a half was all he could handle of me, it being about me. And so he told me I couldn't go to work. And we had a concert that was dedicated to Dara playing Mahler's First Symphony, which was her favorite piece. And he wouldn't let me leave. And he told me, nope, it's time for me now. And then I said, no, I have to go. And he says, and in order to keep me home about a week and a half, he just beat the crap out of me. And I was all bruised. I couldn't go. I was not in any shape to go to this concert dedicated to her. And it was, the sadness, I couldn't believe that, this could happen right after my daughter died. And then he beat me up so bad that I lost the ability to play in the symphony. I played in the San Diego Symphony and the LA Philharmonic. And so I lost my job, and I made my husband leave, of course, and I lost my daughter. And, I remembered, even though I lost all that, I remembered that I have my guru, I have my friends, I have love, and I forgave again. And forgiveness is, but not to take it back, just to forgive and move on, which is not easy when you're in that much pain. It was just an amazing thing, to lose everything, that just all then, and to bring back the joy. And I just couldn't live. I can't live without, joy in my life. It just, it's my website is Joyful Violinist, and it's just who I am. And so I practiced joy. And another thing that helped was service, greatly. And that helped me get out of myself into the bigger we space. And is there anything else that you would like to know?
Well, I just want to say a lot of people right now are responding. Andrea from Unify writes, "Oh my God, you are so beautiful."
Oh,
Eleanor Joy writes, "Beth, you are such an inspiration." And more, I mean, those are just two examples of people. Karen just wrote, "Beth, you are living true forgiveness in your bigger we space,
Yes.
truly teaching us about compassionate love."
thank you.
She really does. You do. You show it's possible. Because so many people feel like it's not possible to lead with that compassionate curiosity and to open up and really look at where people are coming from and try to see how somebody could come to do the things that they would do. Like yours is a very extreme example, and you were able to do that because we can't really forgive. Like forgiveness happens when we're able to really step into that place and try to see through somebody else's eyes, and you were able to do that. So you were like a living embodiment of that. And the fact that you've continued to stay connected to your heart through all of this, and to keep your heart open to the we space. Bethany Grace, the first time she ever played with us was it was in Idlewild.
Whole being
Samara?
The whole being week.
The whole being, oh,
Yeah.
we were both there. We just didn't meet.
We didn't meet that time.
Yeah, we didn't meet that time.
Yes.
We were there. I remember seeing you.
That was the first show she ever played with
Oh my
us, and she
gosh.
played on the anniversary of her daughter's death.
Oh.
That was the first time she ever played with Shakti Tribe.
Hmm.
So, and the way that she was able to show up and play with a full heart, like with full passion, full heart, again, it just exemplifies how she has been able to really live these agreements in her life. Even, I could get into these other pieces right now. Like number 4 is practicing radical self-acceptance, like accepting herself and everything that she.
Want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read it. We can practice radical self-acceptance, compassionately witness your critical thoughts. How can you be even more kind to yourself? Even the inner judge needs compassion and kindness. Deeply listen to the inner voices of your wounding. Seek to understand, allow, heal, and transform. Practice accepting the parts of yourself that feel unlovable. Speak with as much kindness to these parts of self as you would to your beloved or newborn baby. The more you accept disowned aspects of yourself, the easier it will be for you to have compassion for others.
Beautiful, beautiful, and so important.
And she did,
Yeah.
completely exemplified that piece as well, to accept your own wounding through the situation, through that harsh situation, accept everything that you're feeling, your depression, allow yourself to be held within that as you held fast to your spiritual practice, going into the light, which is foundational, which gave you again that the road to radical self-acceptance.
Something that you said earlier, Bethany, that I just want to riff on for a moment is how important it was for you to seek to understand what was going on for the man who murdered your daughter. And there's a beautiful quote by Marshall Rosenberg, who was my mentor. And the quote goes, "Even the most horrific crimes are tragic attempts to get precious needs met." And that's such a powerful, and of course, it doesn't mean we condone the crime, of course not. But if we understand that everything is somebody desperately trying to meet a need, and it sounds like he was desperate to meet his need for connection to your daughter. The man who shot John Lennon, it's because he loved John Lennon and he wanted to be forever connected to John Lennon, right? And so again, terrible, tragic, but underneath it is this like precious need that's being acted out in a tragic way.
Right.
And that's how we can seek to understand even the most horrific crimes.
Yeah.
I did a combined presentation with Azim Kamisa. I don't know if you know him. He had a son who was killed by a gang member. He was delivering pizza, and one of the things that the gang had to do is you have to kill somebody.
To be a
And
member of the gang.
he came to the door and they shot the poor child, and it was just horrible. But he really inspired me. I'm sure we helped each other, and to this day now, even though he's in jail, he's now a changed man. And he is understood, and they've started this global where they go into schools and speak about the gangs, and the man does too, that's in jail, that he's totally changed. And they've, it's just amazing, the love that, it's almost like he took the place of his son, even though he took his son.
Yes.
It was very, very incredible. And he speaks, if anybody gets a chance to follow him, I think I highly advise it. Amazing being.
I'm wondering if you'd be willing, because we're beginning to actually get close to our closing time, and we still want to bring Mirabai back on and read the final too, but would you be willing, because it's so beautiful, all that you shared, and she's going to play one of our favorite songs, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and I just think to drop in and feel that while absorbing and digesting the medicine you've shared in your story would be so beautiful.
I'd be so happy to. What an honor. Thank you.
And here's some inspiration for you. Again, everybody's saying how inspiring, but Ayada Ayala, one of our regulars, writes, I was almost breathless listening to what you just shared, Bethany, and my heart was aching for you and the pain you have endured. What a bright and loving presence you are. Thank you for sharing so deeply and honestly about your healing journey. Karen writes, Bethany, I thank you with all my heart for your heart of radical self-acceptance. Suzanne writes, compassionate and courageous, truly an inspiration. Bethany Grace is truly fully full of grace. Love to you.
Oh,
So there's a little inspiration for you.
that will definitely come through this piece now. Here we go. I think you'll all recognize it.
I'm going to go to gallery viewer for a moment. You can see the twinkling. Wow.
Bethany Grace. Bethany Grace.
I'm going to read a few of the comments that just came in. Josie Ann writes, Bethany, you are a super survivor. You didn't just bounce back, but you are thriving after so much suffering. Ayada writes, my tears are flowing. Heather writes, oh my, wow, so beautiful. I am bawling while listening. Bethany, you are so strong and courageous. Such a beautiful soul and such an inspiration to us all. Eleanor Joy writes, I'm feeling your daughter coming through this music with a sense of determination and even joyfulness. And those are just a few of the comments that have come in.
Yes, that is so beautiful. Bethany, thank you so much for your courage to share your story with everyone today. You know, it really does take a lot of courage, and because you did, everybody is just feeling it so much, and they're just overpouring. The heart is overflowing and pouring with such gratitude from everybody, and it's like they're feeling the journey with you because of you sharing so vulnerably.
If I have your permission, Bethany, I want to edit your story and then your incredible violin playing for that perfect song. And we have in our YouTube channel at the very top, favorite segments. And I want to put it at the top of our favorite segments. Because truly, I've done 450 shows, had amazing musical artists like Larisa. And this is one of my absolute favorite moments ever of any show that I've done. The combination of your story and your artistry and watching spirit flowing through you, watching how you're kind of in your body, but spirit is coming through you. Channeling. It's, I'm really struggling to give it a quality of words. Thank you.
Thank you.
And since I'm struggling with words, I do want to remind people about her website. And her website, of course, is called joyfulviolinist.com. joyfulviolinist.com. And there's a lot of things there. Her music, she's very generous. She's got all these beautiful videos of her playing in different situations. You were there, yeah?
Yes, and there too.
Oh my God. So, joyful violinist that you certainly are. Shall we bring Mirabai on to get Mirabai's thoughts about what just happened here?
Yes.
Mirabai, you're back on camera with us.
Thank you. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. So Bethany, what I would say that was bone chilling, went right to the core. And the other thing I wanted to share with you is that to me, your story was such a beautiful example of how connected you are in your trust and in your faith in God, and knowing that beyond a shadow of a doubt that, you know, that we are souls, that life is so transitory, and that we have these contracts, and everyone comes here and plays out these contracts that can be so devastating and so shocking and so horrific, but then they cause such an immense level of spiritual and soul depth and growth and wisdom and compassion and love that comes out of it, and how that grew you. And just when you were sharing the music and sharing after the music, the light that was on your third eye was like a spotlight radiating out, and the light that was beaming out of your heart chakra, and just how you've grown and integrated from this experience. It just is such a living example of how the most traumatic, tragic, darkest experiences of our life can be the greatest teachers that can enlighten and awaken us to such a level of closeness and deep connection to God. So that I think that's also why it touched everybody so deeply, because it's such a true example of someone who can overcome and realize to that level and extend. So thank you. That was really, really deeply touching.
Love you.
Do you want to read?
I know.
We're going to go a little bit later tonight. Usually we end at 9 o'clock, but we are going to read the 5th and the 6th agreement. And we're also going to go to Mirabai's websites. And again, beautiful comments coming in. Mary Beth just wrote, what a beautiful tribute to your daughter. I feel her here with us. So Bethany, you've changed our lives tonight. You truly have. You've changed our lives. You've brought a deeper understanding of what's possible, even in the face of such tragedy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. Great. I know that wasn't easy.
All right, 5th and 6th agreements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bring that
okay,
back
here
on.
we go.
Number 5, respect each other. You don't have to agree with another's beliefs to be thoughtful and considerate in your communication. Refrain from yelling, using words and body language that objectify, generalize, or dehumanize. Use language that creates connection rather than black, white, right, wrong dialogue. Before you engage in conversation, get clear on your own motivation in the exchange. Are you sharing to affirm how you think/feel and to change someone's opinion? Or are you allowing the space to create deeper understanding and connection?
Mm.
And I want to say one thing about that, which is, this agreement is an agreement that we can make in the world, but first we have to make that with ourselves.
Mm.
To respect ourselves and respect our own boundaries. Respecting for others is a lot about creating healthy boundaries too,
Mhm, yeah.
right? But it always begins with ourselves.
Mhm.
And having that respect to listen to our own needs deeply, and needs being like connecting to source, taking care of ourselves, eating well, all these things. When we take care of ourselves, when we respect ourselves, it makes it much easier to respect others
Mhm.
in the world. And so all these agreements really are pointing back to ourselves
Yeah.
first here before they point out to the world.
These are such beautiful agreements. That 5th one that you just read, a practice again that Marshall Rosenberg taught was eliminate all enemy images, meaning notice when you're calling someone an idiot or a jerk or an asshole. Notice that and stop, because that's dehumanizing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
people are going to make choices that have hurtful consequences. They're going to engage in behaviors and choices that we don't like, but differentiate between the choice he's making or she's making, and don't escalate it into dehumanizing the being. Because
Right.
our problem is never with the being. Our problem is with the choice or behavior that they've made.
That is the whole point, is separating the behavior and the choices from the soul.
Yeah.
From the soul of who that human is.
Yeah.
Because we all come to love, we all return to love because we are love.
Yeah.
And we may come into these bodies and forget. And that's a part of the whole thing of being here, is forgetting so that we can grow. If we don't forget, then we're not going to grow in the same way. And so remembering that piece.
Beautiful.
And we could dive more into that, but we don't have the time. So
We'll have to do another edition of this for sure. Okay, here comes the 6th and final one.
And number 6
is
play together. Get out there and play. Make music together. Find the humor in life. Laugh. I want to add laugh, even though it's not right there. Somebody was saying laugh, earlier in the comments, right? Play improves relationships. It inspires deeper connection and bonding with others. Play creates rapport as you come into more sympathetic resonance with one another through fun and laughter. It teaches cooperation.
Mm.
And that, again, we can point it at ourselves too, like to be able to laugh at ourselves,
Yeah.
right? To be able to laugh at our own vulnerabilities, our own blind spots, what we might call our weaknesses, to have that ability to laugh and to bring that laughter into community, allowing others to be able to see our weaknesses and being able to laugh at that.
You know, I talked about how Ram Dass was such an influence on me, and he was brilliant at that. Ram Dass was so good at telling slightly gentle, self-deprecating stories about his own humanness. Even he would talk about how if he wanted to seduce somebody, his favorite line was, "Do you want to go up to my bedroom and look at pictures of my guru?" You know, and that's the perfect humanity of that, right? He was so good with that. And I think it was important because he came at a time to break down the ideas of I'm the great Ram Dass who wrote the best-selling book, but no, I'm just like this human being trying to figure it out, and I'm sharing with you my journey, you know.
And he was very wise.
And he was very wise.
So that's the thing, is that he was showing his humanity, and he was playing with others and sharing his humanity.
You know, he of course had the stroke the last 10 years of his life, and he lived in Maui, and I knew him quite well, and he would periodically do talks. And one talk, like 200-300 people in the auditorium in Maui listening to him speak, and some smart ass goes, "Oh, see, I just did it. I just did it. I just did the enemy image."
But you caught yourself.
But I caught myself.
There
I
you
caught
go.
it right away.
There you go.
So some fellow said, "Ram Dass, if you are so wise and so spiritual, how come you don't just stand up and get off that damn wheelchair?" And Ram Dass, and the whole audience gasps. And Ram Dass goes, "You know, I've rather grown fond of my wheelchair. Next question." It was just so light. So like, no, I kind of have grown fond of my wheelchair, you know? And it was just like the way he handled that attack with just such grace, as he would call it, fierce grace, such beautiful grace.
Yes.
Like, you know, yeah, so love you, Ram Dass. Love you, Yogananda and Rosenberg and all of our heroes. Wow. Okay, how to get more Mirabai, because people have been asking. You ask and we do our best to show you. So we're going to share a couple things about Mirabai, because she's got a couple of really important websites. Her primary website is her name, mirabaidevi.org. Make sure it's a .org. And there's so many offerings that she has here: light worker training, private sessions. So for those of you who wanted to get the extractions or get support, you just go here and click on private sessions. And then she's got a membership portal, a power of love. And that's another website that we'll take a look at in a moment. And you can actually go here also to her programs. And she's got all these beautiful teleconferences. But tell us about this one, because I know a lot of people are really enjoying your guided soul journey program. So Mirabai, can you tell us a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah, that's a deep dive into one's own Akashic records and into clearing the nitty-gritty karma that goes across lifetimes and childhood karma that really takes us into why we have that pain in our body, why we have that challenging relationship, why we have that project or goal that just never works out in our life, or why we can't ever manifest abundance. Whatever it is, it's like we know we're hitting up on those blocks and we keep repeating those patterns, but we don't know why. And so we go inside, and it's a beautiful relationship cooperation where we look at your Akashic records together and we access your soul's journey, and we look at you in all these different forms and lives where you have gotten to the core, gotten to the causal level where you can see it play out, and now you know why it's happening, and you can unravel it and dissolve it. And we break it up with beautiful things like light transmissions and intuitive readings and opportunities to extract negative energies and to clear you and to align you and also bring you into higher states of consciousness. And the whole guided soul journey is about moving out of victimization into self-realization. So moving out of slavery, which a lot of the human race has been in slavery for a long time, and moving into liberation, self-empowerment, self-love, self-acceptance, and really getting to see that, wow, I've created my own movie. I'm the writer, the director, the creator, and the producer of my own film, and I've played all the roles. And I thought that it was other people doing this to me, but nobody's done anything to me because everyone is me. And actually, I've created this myself. And so I have to go inside and make total peace and love with myself and accept myself as I am and know who I am. And from that place, I can make empowered choices. From that place, the veils have dropped and I'm able to see reality as it is. I'm outside of blame. I'm outside of judgment. I'm outside of separation. And I'm now seeing the stuff that I've never wanted to see or look at. And so it's such an aha awakening experience that people are doing it like a second time and a third time and a fourth time, because every time we do it, we go into new records and we go into deeper
how long
layers.
does it last? How long is the course?
It's 5 weeks. It's basically a 5-session program.
Okay.
And you can do it individually or you can do it in a group. And so I've walked groups of 8 people up to 25 at a time. And I'm walking a lot of people individually also through it, because it's my greatest passion and deepest soul commitment to help people unravel to that point of realization and awakening and liberation. It's so ecstatic, so
Okay,
freeing.
so you find that on mirabaidevi.org. It's the Guided Soul Journey Program. And then there's a second website that she has, because she has so many beautiful offerings. And apoweroflove.com, apoweroflove.com is her other website. And that's where people can get the membership portal and come in at different levels to get your trainings. Is that correct?
Yes. There's all kinds of different trainings and workshops and programs, live
And
transmissions,
you've got some
videos,
free access.
teachings.
Oh my gosh. Look at all that you got. And here's the transformational media, all the recordings and books that you've done. So, wow. Look at all. Just, wow. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Wow. What are the divine principles? That jumped out at me.
Yeah, that's something that was channeled to me and downloaded that I've been teaching all over the world. And so it's me giving a talk on these, basically the spiritual principles. It's like a guidebook to life through spiritual principles. And so, yeah, it's very in-depth.
Well, thank you so much for your decades of service to humanity. And it's a beautiful, I'm so grateful that you're spending time with us, to be with us on the Awakening World. And so many of our friends have really appreciated you. So thank you. And thank you for inviting your dear friend.
Absolutely. Wonderful to
Thank
have
you, Scott.
wonderful to have you here, sweetheart.
Thank you, Larisa, Lala. Thank you so much for having me. It's really beautiful.
Thank you. And another, again, want to let people know, if you haven't already joined, if you go on Facebook, and a lot of you are watching on Facebook, Larisa's Shakti Love Warriors. And I've been promoting this for the 2 years since I met you. And so doing Saturday Night Live, but every day at 11:11, there's a beautiful meditation. Sometimes it's led by Larisa, but she really shares it out to all of her different Shakti Love Warriors. So tell us a little bit more about the group.
This group has become like a really beautiful online sangha, like a spiritual gathering of souls to raise a vibration together. And like you can see, like Maura led the other day, and
Guru Purnima is a day in India.
yeah, she's talking about Guru Purnima.
Yeah, and look at how many people are connected. 171 comments, 300 views. So it's, it's a very thriving community.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of people stopping in and dropping and meditating together and coming into support for one another. And it's not to say that our community hasn't had challenges, because we've had challenges come up within the community because people have different beliefs and they'll express their beliefs. But what I love about our community is that we're working these agreements. We're working these 6 agreements. Like, it's a place for people to be able to share who they are, and it's safe. And we're creating this safe container for everybody. And
It's an online gym for the 6 agreements.
it is.
Yeah.
It's an online gym.
I'm working on number 3 right now.
That's right. And we have daily practice. So
Mhm.
plugging daily into source, we have that. We do that every day together. And I mean, I've always said that it's okay if it doesn't happen one day, you know, that if we do it offline, we'll still be doing it together.
Mm.
But for whatever reason, we consistently, you know, we show up and people substitute if somebody gets sick, and it's pretty amazing.
Beautiful.
There's a lot of love. And I would say that a lot of people have expressed that this is a place where they have grown deeply, that people have shared that they came in depressed and now their vibration is lifted. They can't believe it, that they're different people because they're feeling so supported and loved and seen. And those who really put in the extra energy to comment, people in the community get to know them. So everyone gets to know each other.
We have that with our Global Peace Tribe. There's like a certain core group that's always here, and they connect and relate to each other. And you know, when something happens, one of our core members' husband died a couple of weeks ago, so we stopped and did prayer for him. And it's beautiful how we can have online communities like Shakti Love Warriors, like the Global Peace Tribe.
It makes a big difference to have these communities that support one another. We need this. We need a lot more of this.
If you haven't already joined the Shakti Love Warriors, it's free. And just go onto your Facebook, and most of you have access to Facebook right now, and join. Well, there we go. And I've already joined, but you always have that option there. All right. And it's Larisa's Shakti Love Warriors. And we're going to have more Larisa. Since I'm here in her temple, she's going to come back on Sunday morning, and we've got something really special that's going to take place. For anybody who's watching for the first time, one of the shows we do is our Sacred Sunday show. I've been doing it for 2.5 years. And on this Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning on our Sacred Sunday show, Larisa is going to share her amazing story of going into the darkness. And because I'm her friend and I've kind of been tracking, her story is unbelievable. And the courage, you talk about courage, the courage of Bethany. Wait until you hear the courage of this woman and what she chose to do. I love you. So I respect you. You are my inspiration. You really inspire me, Larisa.
And you inspire me. So it's a mutual inspiration.
So I don't even want to say much. Just come. Trust me. Come on Sunday morning to hear her remarkable story, because it is extraordinary what she has done and the impact and the beautiful miracle of a result of her courage. So that's Sunday. And of course, between now and then, we do have one more show, which we want to make sure everybody knows about. You know, we periodically get to collaborate with the wonderful Teresa Collins and the wonderful Jennifer Hill. They have both co-hosted many editions of Saturday Night Live and now The Awakening World. And so all 3 of us are going to be doing tomorrow's show. And what's the topic? Love is the answer. We've got great music. Gary Malkin, Johanna Beekman, and Theo Grace will all be sharing wisdom and playing music, and they're all wonderful, some of our favorite musical artists. And then also some of our favorite speakers like Julie Kroll and Miranda Clendenning. And then we've got some new speakers that haven't been on my show yet, Dr. James Miles and Steve Klein, all sharing about how love is the answer. And isn't that what we heard today? That's kind of our theme for the weekend. You know, Bethany demonstrated that love is the answer. Mirabai, her whole teaching, love is the answer. And the Shakti Love Warriors and what you do, and love is the answer. So join us tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. It's all of the Awakening World shows now are Zoom meetings. And so that means you can turn your cameras on. And this is a good time to do that because as we say goodnight, we always invite people to turn on your cameras and wave goodnight, wave goodbye. And we'll hopefully
Thank
see you
you.
tomorrow night for Love is the Answer. And on Sunday morning for more of Larisa sharing all about her healing journey into the darkness. Thank you, everybody. I love Coach Scott Catamas and love sharing this. Oh, let's bring Mirabai back on one more time. Love sharing this with Mirabai, Bethany, Grace, Larisa. Just a
Scott,
beautiful evening.
thank you for hosting this, Scott, and making this possible, and your dedication and your commitment. You were so committed,
I am.
so committed.
And so are you.
Yes.
And so are you.
Yes.
So are you.
Yes.
So God bless our commitments.
Yeah.
God bless our
absolutely.
commitments. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
Have a beautiful night. Beautiful night, beloveds.